There has been plenty of anti-Christian bias against the vice president since the day Mike Pence was added to the GOP ticket. Now a new book titled The Shadow President claims he's a, quote, Christian supremacist. New York Times columnist Frank Bruni describes it this way, quote, there are problems with impeaching Donald Trump. A big one is the holy terror waiting in the wings. That would be Mike Pence, who mirrors the boss more than you realize. He's also self-infatuated, also a bigot, also a liar, also cruel. Here to discuss, Ben Shapiro, editor of the Daily Wire. Ben, great to have you with us. A holy terror?
You know, this is how you got Trump. Yeah, I sort of get tired of using that phrase, but this is legitimately how you got Trump. You say that Mitt Romney's the worst guy in the world, and before that, John McCain was the worst guy in the world. And then Republicans are like, fine, how about if we just nominate this guy, right? The guy who just punches everything. How about that? And then it turns out that no matter how bad the Republican supposedly is, the next Republican will inevitably be even worse. Mike Pence will certainly be worse. He's a worse person, a scarier person than Donald Trump. Like, you always think that there's some limit to the lengths to which the left will go to portray a Republican as bad, but no matter how much they hate Trump, the next guy they'll hate just as much or more because he's the next guy. That's just how it works.
Why do you think it's so easily and openly, discussed and mocked among a lot of folks out there, mainstream and on the left, this idea of Pence having a devout Christian faith? Omarosa says this, so everyone wishing for impeachment might want to reconsider it. We would be begging for the days of Trump back if Pence became president. He was being directed by a higher deity to agree with Trump no matter what. And then you'll remember this from Joy Behar on The View back in February.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you. That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
Now, there was enough backlash that she did end up apologizing. Here's what she said.
I think Vice President Pence is right. I was raised to respect everyone's religious faith, and I fell short of that. I sincerely apologize for what I said.
Why do you think it's just okay to Christian bash him so much?
Well, because there is a baseline level of hatred, really, for Christians on the cultural left, and it's most evident in New York and Los Angeles, places where I've spent a lot of time. There's this belief that everybody who deeply believes their faith is actually secretly a bigot, that the reason that they are acting out their religion in public is not because they believe their religion, but because they are using the religion as a cover for bigotry. It's the same sort of thing that they've used with regard to Jack Phillips over at Masterpiece Cake Shop. Really, he hates gay people. It's not that he's a Christian who believes he has to abide by his religious standards. It's that he secretly hates gay people and trans people, and he's just using religion as a cover. They say the same sort of thing about Mike Pence. Truly, there's a tyrannical tendency among religious people, and then they just use Jesus or the Bible as an excuse. Now, of course, none of that is true, but it does demonstrate the militant secularism of the left, and it also shows why putting people who believe that sort of thing in charge of government is a dangerous thing, because if they actually believe that religious folks are by nature bigots and that they're only using all of this religious talk to cover up their bigotry, it's no wonder they're always attempting to crack down on folks who have a religious bent, despite the fact that the Constitution was specifically designed to preserve the religious freedom of Americans.
I mean, this goes pretty far with the language against Pence, this new book. I mean, talking about him being a Christian supremacist and warning people that if he does become president, you're looking at a theocracy. I mean, it makes it sound like the mullahs of Iran are taking over here in the U.S.
Honestly, I find it absolutely bewildering that the same folks who are claiming that Mike Pence is going to run a theocracy also want federal gun control to seize all the guns. It's truly amazing. It's also amazing that the folks who are saying that Mike Pence wants to run a theocracy ignore the fact that Mike Pence is a constitutional conservative who wants to limit the size and scope of government. The only theocrats, the only people who actually want to rule from above by instituting their moral preferences on society from the top down, are the folks on the left who actually want to invade rights on a regular basis and force people to do things that they don't want to do. It's a lot more common on the left than it is on the right. So they're actually using their own theocratic tendencies toward government, which a lot of folks on the radical left see as a quasi-godlike figure. They're using that own theocratic tendency and then they're projecting it onto people like Mike Pence. It's really quite disgusting.
Well, and to circle back with what you said earlier, a piece in The Federalist, Bruni fails to see, as do most of his peers, that it's precisely this kind of elitist bigotry that fueled Trump's ascendancy, and they wonder why their readership is declining and people continue to vote for candidates they believe are crazy. Ben Shapiro.
Totally right.
Thank you for joining us. Great to have you with us.